very good partners of ours, for letting us have this space so we can have this conversation. During today, we will be talking about, one, the program, and each artist up here will be able to talk about themselves, their practice, how was the program for them, and just everything else that was evolved around the program, and basically their success as artists, and just when it comes down to Milwaukee, sometimes of how difficult it can be with supporting other things that's based around them as an artist. So I do want, if you guys don't mind, if you guys can go ahead and introduce yourself. We can start with this right here with Isaiah. You mind introducing yourself, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Darius. Hello, everybody. My name is Isaiah Joseph. I am a Milwaukee native. I went to Milwaukee School of Languages, if anybody knows where that is. But I am a photographer, videographer, and artist in general. I mainly focus on portrait photography. You can see some of my work right here. This is a portrait series of my family from Papua New Guinea. The Generator program was a really great opportunity for me to sort of see what other artists are doing in the community and have a better understanding of how I can present my artwork. Because I didn't go to art school. I had other artists in the family, but they were unfamiliar with the process of getting into galleries or presenting their work in general, or what that process might look like. And then also dealing with funds when you receive grant money from art programs. It was a really great process for me to get like a holistic experience, and also really like meet a great community of artists in the Milwaukee area. I'm really fond of all these people's artworks, and yeah, I'll pass it on to Hannah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Hannah Samoy. I'm currently a junior at the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design. So I do go to art school, but one thing that I liked about the Generator was that it kind of showed me what the art world is like outside of school, and also what it's like to present my work outside of school as well, and getting different audiences, because I haven't done that yet in Milwaukee. So thank you, Generator. My work is this work right over here. It's an installation and a video of a performance I did. And my work this year, and this past year, have kind of been around exploring what it means for me to be a second generation Filipino American. And what it, like reflecting on what was lost, what was kept, and what I'm learning as I go through life. And for one, what might have been lost, like language, that piece that's hanging right there is about language barriers. And then the piece next to it with the rocks kind of reflects the weight of situations where I feel like not being enough of a Filipino growing up here, just for losing certain aspects of culture, but kind of learning to grow accustomed to what it means to not have it and be okay with it, or how to learn things on my own rather than just sitting pretty stagnant where I am. But yeah, that is where I'm at right now. So I'll pass it over to Jovanny.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jovanny Hernandez. Hello? Hi, we're good. Hello, everybody. My name is Jovanny Hernandez. I am a community artist and photojournalist based here in Milwaukee. I'm a recent grad from UW Milwaukee, where I got my BFA in photography with a minor in journalism. Both in my professional career, like I mentioned, I work as a photojournalist for a newspaper here. And then within my creative practice, I mostly focus on community art, working with nonprofit groups or just, kind of individuals. A lot of my work, it's located in the corner. It's kind of like everything made on like the fruit box and like the burlap sack. A lot of my work is based around kind of like cultural identity, and overall within both my professional practice and my creative practice, it's all about how can I tell a story.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anwar Floyd-Pruitt. I am an artist, a curator, educator sometimes, and a puppeteer. I went back to art school later in life. So I got a BFA from UW-Milwaukee in 2017, and then went straight to UW-Madison where I got my MFA in 2020. Most of my work as of late has been a lot of painting as a form of procrastination instead of making puppetry. But I'll also say that the work that I have here exhibited at MARN is over in the far corner where I'm pointing. It's from a body of work called Synaptic Crackle. Those are 3 paintings of approximately 60 paintings in that series, and they are about post-traumatic stress disorder. And there is a partner series that I'm currently working on that is called Drink More Water, Get More Sunlight, and it's about healing.
Good. All right, hello everyone, my name is Nehemiah Edwards. I go by Nemo for short, like the fish. I do it every time, it makes life easy. I'm a visual artist, I paint primarily. I'm more interested in getting into sculptural and installation work these days as well. My piece in this show is the big piece with the angel sort of taking his halo off his head that says, "But who helps the helper though?" One of my earlier works made in 2017, which is the year that I also started painting as well, where I decided to explore painting as a profession. My background is actually in electrical engineering, so I worked a couple of jobs in engineering, got my degree in that. But I knew the summer before I graduated college that this probably wouldn't be the thing I would do in life. And so I started to explore just creating as an outlet for the things that I do, the things that I would pursue in life. At that time it was music production, but just explore the visual arts a little bit later on after graduating. I fell in love with it, and so yeah, we're here now, and my work in general explores the themes of the spiritual world, the things that are unseen. The sort of imagery that I create most times is an angel and demon character. That's what people know me for. And sort of highlighting this internal battle that we deal with when it comes to everything that we decide to do, because it's our choices, our decisions, the things that we do, which makes up what our life is. And so I like to explore just the spiritual themes, things that are unseen but have a profound effect on us and the things that we do and the life that we create for ourselves. So.
All right, I just wanted to say thank you guys. I wanted to introduce 5 members of the cohort before I even introduce gener8tor Sherman Phoenix, just because without these folks here, we wouldn't have no program. So my name is Darius Smith. I am the program director of gener8tor Sherman Phoenix, and the focus of Sherman Phoenix is mainly to give artists of all different sorts of background, professional development, mentorship, and a variety of different things that normally you wouldn't be able to get within any other art program, especially in Milwaukee. A lot of folks don't know that Milwaukee is dead last when it comes down to art funding. So programs like this are very important, not just for folks visiting Milwaukee or just whatever it may be, but just for individuals who want to stay in Milwaukee and want to feel the level of support, and not just support, investment in the sense of how do we invest. It's not just like monetary gain, but how do you just invest in a person with time, energy, and all those different sort of things. So with gener8tor Sherman Phoenix, that is something that we're doing. Yes, they do get, each artist does get $10,000 of grant funding, but with that grant funding, they're able to get a studio space, they're able to meet mentors, have conversations with different individuals that's not just based in Milwaukee. So you can feel like, hey, I'm having a conversation with somebody in a totally different time zone, and you can see how the art market works in their area, because sometimes you can feel very siloed, and sometimes you can feel like, oh, well maybe art isn't for me. It possibly is just how it operates within the city, and it can broaden your horizon. So for us with gener8tor Sherman Phoenix, we want to inspire, we want to make folks feel like they can invest within the city and want more within the city. So I just wanted to share with everybody what gener8tor Sherman Phoenix is. So just in case you guys do want to apply to the next application cycle, feel free to. But it's not about that right now. We're having a conversation with the artist. So I will be asking Isaiah, question first. I just want to have a conversation with each one of you guys, more in depth about your practice and like why that is the practice of your choice. So I would like to ask you that, Isaiah. So why photography?
Yeah. Hello. Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. I think photography for me has been something that has been sort of passed down to my family for generations. My grandfather, when he was a missionary and moved to Papua New Guinea, he documented, his time there, meeting my grandmother, my aunts being born, and how they grew up, with island culture, and also like my grandfather being a white person, and maybe there's some things that are lost in translation there, but nonetheless, it's an important moment that he documented. And for me to be able to go back and see those moments sort of sets in stone my own cultural identity. And that was kind of my, why I went back and photographed these pieces, because I felt like I had to document a piece of me. My dad and my aunt were photographers, and my aunt was, she literally was a photographer, but also they both documented a lot of just day-to-day family things, taking videos. There's literally a video of me being born, which kind of freaks everybody out, and my mother included, but like there's videos and things like that of mine and my family, and I think like those are such cool, important things that I have this recollection of this history in my life, and I try to approach every moment in making a photo. And the best advice that I've gotten was, you're documenting this time, this space. So just move forward and be the photographer that you are in documenting this time. So I try to do that. But other than that, I just love to take badass photos because I think I'm a pretty good photographer. No, just kidding. But yeah, I've been helping shoot a couple music videos this summer, and part of that is working in commercial work and translating some of those skills and abilities into other spaces too. And I think as an artist, it's my responsibility to translate those skills into other spaces too, and also show those people in more corporate or I was gonna say professional, but I'm gonna just say white spaces too, because that's what it is. Like, I feel like I had to go out of my way to find these tools, resources, skills, and knowledge, and I'm here to show them that I can show up into this space and I can be just as good of a photographer or videographer as they can. So, thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing. Don't turn your mic off yet. We still got some more questions. So what is a goal of yours as a photographer in the future? After this program, what is a goal of yours?
Yeah, I think for me right now is growing my business as a photographer and videographer. I've owned and operated an LLC for the last 4 years. So this will be my 5th, and like owning a business is wild, and I think one of the goals is to like return to being an artist, or figuring out what that balance is as a business owner and artist. And it's an extremely difficult and finite line to distinguish for yourself, because you want to do all these cool things and give all your extra time and energy to do whatever. Those things might not also pay. Like, you just have to make those decisions for yourself at the end of the day. So I think, being in this gallery is one of the things that sort of inspired me to continue to move forward and do things for me. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Hannah, same question for you. I know you work in a lot of different mediums, but if you want to talk a little bit more about the reason of why.
Yeah, so I started off in painting, like oil painting, going into school, and I want to say that my idea of art was not what it is today, and that originally it was like, oh, I gotta paint something realistic, I gotta like if it's realistic, I felt like it was objectively good, but it meant nothing to me going into school. And some point during my second year, I started reading more, learning more about how perspective changes art and who's viewing it, who's writing about it. And that's where I started exploring of how can I make it more personal to me, and what does art really mean to me. So I kind of branched out from oil painting and started doing these different sculptures using different materials of whatever felt relevant to what I was trying to say, which a lot has to do with my relation to culture and not knowing everything and being okay with that at times. This one, like, it has these clear, transparent panels because I wanted to show that sequence and how my grandmother and I look at each other as we speak, and I don't always get what she's saying, but we're wearing the same clothes or the same colors, just showing that we do share some form of identity, but there is that part that is lost. And with the rocks, I do want to pick materials that feel intentional to me, and like the weight of that is very important to how I feel with certain situations. I did a lot of research. My work is heavily based on learning more about my family, oral histories. A lot of my work, I love just talking with my grandparents or talking with my parents and learning about what their life was like before moving here, what is different between me and them. So whatever I make, it always ends up coming from a personal perspective on how I view that. But yeah, and I think a lot of that also has to do with compromise as well. I feel like as a second generation immigrant, a lot of what I do is trying to pave my own path, but subconsciously or consciously, it always comes down to like, how do I go down my own path but make it enough where I know that it would be accepted. So that is something that I'm still dealing with, and I don't know if it's necessarily good or bad at times, depending on what it is, but that's how I feel about that. And I do, with the work here and whether I continue to make it about my culture or not, I do want to give recognition to my parents for letting me choose to follow my passion as a career, because like that isn't common for Filipino Americans. Like going to nursing, one, you don't want me to be a nurse first off, and two, it's like that's this whole other thing. And another recognition to my grandparents for them choosing to come here and start a better life for themselves, and also recognition for the ancestors before them, that regardless if my work is about them or not, it's still present in everything I do, in every way I walk, and I think that is something that is very, very like, I'm gonna stop talking now because I feel like I might cry.
All right. Well, I'm sorry, Hannah. I got one more question. So, just the last question. Same thing I asked Isaiah. What's the goal for yourself as an artist? As of right now, because it will change. But as of right now.
So, as like my goal as an artist for right now is to, like Isaiah said, to make art for myself, because I feel like going to a predominantly white institution, I do feel like I can sometimes be put in a box, and sometimes that box is, oh, she is this, or she's going, like she is Asian American, or she's Filipino, so she's of course supposed to make work about that. And I mean, I clearly do, but I think at this point my mindset has shifted, where like whether it's what they expect me to do or if it's what they don't expect me to do, it's like, I'm just gonna do what I'm gonna do. I don't care where that goes in other people's minds, as long as it's right in my mind, that's what I'm gonna do. But that, and also making this work has introduced me to a lot of people who can relate to my experiences, like meeting Isaiah, we kind of connected on that as well. So just making work where I can find my people, like people who've gone through the same thing, and I feel less alone.
Thanks, Hannah. Can you guys hear me clear? Can you guys hear everybody clear? Just want to make sure everybody can hear. So Jovanny, same question for you of the reason of why, and we'll go to your goal.
Yeah, I think for me, you know, I'm someone who kind of came from humble beginnings. You know, my parents, you know, when 23, 24 years ago, when they came to the U.S., all they really had was, you know, the air in their lungs and their child on their back. And then growing up here, you know, not knowing the language and being in this like completely different world with my parents and trying to learn how to navigate such a different sort of universe, you know, I couldn't communicate with individuals. I was someone who had to take a whole bunch of ESL classes growing up. So, you know, engraved in my mind is like looking at cue cards with like a shape or an image of an object, and like underneath it is like the English word for it. And I think that's why I started to gravitate a lot towards like photography and visual arts, because it allowed me to really understand and communicate with others, especially with these kind of language barriers that exist. And from there, you know, kind of picking the mediums I chose, you know, like, yes, sometimes I use digital cameras, but a lot of times, you know, I use a lot of the objects I find throughout, you know, since I didn't grow up with a lot, you know, I make the most from least. And that's kind of one of the key aspects my parents have taught me. You know, as I always tell people, you know, I'm the son of farm workers and fruit pickers. And that's where a lot of that basis of the work that I showcase here at MARN was based around, was like, how do I tell that story? How do I tell, you know, that aspect of life that a lot of us overlook? For me, because my family still works within these types of industry, if it's, you know, field workers, fruit pickers, maids, line cooks, janitors, you know, these are my family members, and I understand how they kind of take care of the world. A lot of times individuals who do not grow up in those certain situations, they're not aware of those types of issues, such as, you know, we all go to the grocery store, but we never realize the men, women, or children who picks our fruit. You know, we work in offices, but we don't realize the people who come in at midnight or 1 a.m. to clean our offices, to clean our bathrooms, the people who, you know, build our homes, who fix our roofs, to even, you know, you go to a restaurant or to somewhere and we don't realize the people who are in the back, you know, 8 hours behind a stove cooking our meals. And that's where the basis of this project came about, you know, and that's why it's titled, you know, Fruits of Our Labor, because, you know, a lot of us enjoy these different amenities or enjoy these different things, and we enjoy the fruits of their labor without realizing where they come from.
Appreciate that. So the next question, what is your goal?
Yeah, I mean, overall my goal, especially now as, you know, my art career starts to grow and my professional career also starts to grow, is seeing how I can continue to tell these very important stories. Overall, my goal is always like, how can I create a conversation? And I think that's kind of one of the biggest issues revolving around, you know, artists who deal with these very heavy topics. A lot of the times, you know, it becomes very highly politicized, you know, political, or it becomes, you know, this person's wrong, this person's the bad guy, or XYZ is wrong, creating more division. Within my work, it's not so much about that. It's like, hey, like, this is my family, this is our story, and this is our experiences, you know, and it's just kind of sparking those conversations. And as I continue on in my career, it's gonna be focused on like, how can I, you know, now that I've learned how to tell my own story, how can I go out and start telling the stories of others in both in a respectful manner, but making sure that when these stories are told, people are proud of them.
Thank you for that. So Anwar, we're gonna talk about the why you make the work that you make.
I think the why for me probably goes back a little over a decade. You know, before I claimed the artist, you know, in myself. And you know, the why became, I was surrounded by creatives and artists, and I was like working in more of a business. I was a independent film producer here in Milwaukee, and I was a producer. I wasn't doing the creative, and so I was so inspired by the individuals who were doing creative around me that once we finished that film, I thought, well, I'm going to start doing creative as well. And I had been creative when I was young, and an artist, not just creative. We're all creative in different ways. And so, yeah, at the age of 36, I just did a 180 and left corporate marketing and went to art. And it was the best gift I ever gave myself, to re-enroll in school. And so then the why right now is, you don't do a 180 in your 30s just to do another, 90 degree, and maybe you do. But, I feel so energized with art making, and I hope that I hope I can get as much of it out as I possibly can before my time is over, right? I don't foresee any sort of artistic block, right? Because there are so many stories, not just mine, to share. And I think that's what kind of brought me to puppetry. I was sitting in my studio during grad school, and I had my first opportunity to work with incarcerated youth, where I would be the sole sort of facilitator of the activity. I had worked in the past for a company in Milwaukee called Express Yourself Milwaukee, and we would go in groups of 4 or 5 artists, and it was a multi-art experience. And so it was overwhelming at times, right? Because we would do some music, and then some visual art, and some drumming, and then some dancing, then some poetry, maybe like do some rapping, play some art games. And so we never really got to go as deep into like a single process as I always like envisioned. And so I was sitting in my grad school studio, and I thought, what is a people-powered kinetic sculpture, right? Because I wanted something that the young people could make, right? But I also wanted it to be sort of a performative object, right? And I was sitting there, and I thought, oh, a puppet is a version of a people-powered kinetic sculpture. And then I thought, okay, well, I have to make it accessible. Right? I can only have certain tools in like incarcerated spaces, and if I want to teach young people a skill that then maybe they can take and use it themselves and build upon whatever it is that I shared with them, this new accessibility was important. And so I think why is also so that I can kind of continue to strip away specialized equipment and materials to still create like engaging objects and engaging performative objects. And so I think that's like a really interesting challenge, right? Do more with less. And then finally, the why for these particular paintings was, I was supposed to be working on a puppetry project, right? But to puppeteer is to give a lot of like life and energy to an inanimate object, right? And you've got to have that to give. And after a traumatic incident on State Street in Madison, I just really found that I was struggling to harness that energy to perform these puppets, right? And I wouldn't say that I'm an art therapist by any stretch. I did study psychology, so I know a little bit something about therapy. I studied art, so I know a little something about art. But I really just needed to get something out of me, and so through this sort of 62 painting series, it wasn't just like the act of making it that was helping me sort of get it out and get over and heal. But it was also the sort of talking about my practice. People would come to my studio, they see what I was doing, and they say, well, that looks cool, but then also I had to share what it was actually about, right? And as I was working on these paintings, they didn't have the black layer, and they didn't have that sort of metallic layer on them, so people got to see these like very colorful, expressive paintings, and then I just had to say, but I have agreed with myself that each of these paintings gets covered with this veil, right? And sort of referencing W.B. Du Bois's like idea of the veil, because the violence, the traumatic incident, the violence against me was racially motivated, right? And so that's what that W.B. Du Bois's veil is also about. So So that's the why. And a few whys.
So now, the goal for yourself as an artist.
I'd like to sell some work, right? I mean, selling work is certainly a way to.
I think we all do.
You know, right? Great way to keep, well, whether I sell work or not, I'm going to keep making, right? And so then there's the, selling some to buy more materials, or selling some so I can do something positive with the money that isn't just, sort of like all about me and like the big house that I don't really want, or the fancy cars that I don't really intend to purchase. But I would like to develop the hip hop puppet party a little bit more. It was a live performance of puppetry, and I'm hoping to really do more of that for the camera. And I do think that there's some educational opportunities there. There's some entertainment opportunities there, and there's opportunities to like engage other people. I've done a 2-person puppet show, and it's not enough people. So right, I need more puppeteers. I need more collaborators, and so I think that's part of it as well. Is that I was like so inspired by my art friends and artists I got to work with so early in life that I would love to continue working with artists in like creative capacities to make things that that hang on walls and appear in plazas, but also can be viewed on screens.
Thank you, Anwar. Nemo, now's your time to shine. What is the why for you?
All right, so my why is, first and foremost, I have to say to everyone, I love you. I mean that to each and every single one of you out here. And that's the why in my work in general. It's all about love. I say love is the answer to absolutely everything. All the problems that we deal with as humans, it's love. Love is the solution. And love is the solution because that is what we are at our core. Beyond what we see on the surface of everything, it's love. That's why we desire it so much. There's not a person on planet Earth who does not desire, matter of fact, require love for their very own existence, for their well-being. And so my why is to push that message. And so the work that people know me for are my angel and demon characters, which is sort of like the internal that we deal with when it comes to our struggles. It's like one getting the best of the other in different scenarios. Just highlighting that battle, that internal battle that we deal with when it comes to our choices, our decisions. But ultimately, it's dealing with things that we deal with, that we struggle with, that we have a desire to sort of really rectify in a way. Like we want to overcome and always be the better version of ourselves, But it's about how do we listen to that higher self of ours more than not, to get us to be the person who we want to be here on Earth. And so it's for me it came down to a point of like, okay, I did the engineering thing and just kind of going through the motions of life. You go to school, you go to high school, you graduate, you go to college, you get a job. Like that was just what I was doing. But I had to listen to what was happening inside of me. I'm like, this isn't the life that I see for myself, and I always found myself going back home creating. So it came to a point of like, okay, well, if I'm going to do anything, what am I going to make my life about? Like when I'm dead and gone from here, like what did Nehemiah do? Like what was my message overall? And the most important thing that I could think of was love. That's truly what matters. But it's about knowing what love is too. Love is not selfish, it is selfless. It is all things good. Matter of fact, love is God. And that's who we are at our core as well. We have a spirit in us that is pure love. Like we have a dual nature to us where we're parts human, we're parts spirit. Where the true us is a spirit, which is all good. And it wants to always do the right thing, always wants to do the best thing. That's our highest self. But we have the opportunity to live that higher self in reality and create like this heaven on earth for ourselves. And now, if we choose to listen to that higher self more times than not. And so it's getting people on a journey to trying to unlock their higher self. That's what I feel like my why is in my work, is to truly help and guide others to become their best, most highest, most fulfilled on earth self.
Appreciate that. And the goal?
Yeah, the goal is to, again, it kind of coincides with the why, is to help others really heal inside. And that's why I sort of kind of depict the angel and demon dichotomy in my work as well. As just it's about, okay, we do have like choices, like we have a say in our life and what our life is and what it becomes, and so the real battle is, okay, so how do I make the best choice always, so just continuing to help guide. That's why my desire these days is to go more into installation work as well, because I want to give people real experiences that they can recall, where it helps them deal with the internal problems that they deal with on a regular basis. Could be, that anxiety, depression, these internal things that we deal with. But I feel like there's ways to overcome these, the things that we deal with, by recalling particular experiences. Because a lot of it comes down to what's happening in our mind. It's our mind playing tricks on us, and that's the real battle that we're dealing with. It's like, it's really us versus ourselves. And we can overcome ourselves, our fleshly desires, and be our higher self. But it's like, okay, how do people do that? So I'm interested in truly helping others heal inside and allowing them to go through experiences, whether it be just viewing a work on canvas, but more so having a real experiential experience that allows them to really recall a sensory experience that allows them to recall a moment in which they made a commitment to be okay no matter what. And I think that's one of the things that, a lesson that I learned recently as well, is that, just looking at my life in general, things have always turned out okay, no matter what I've decided to go through in life. Like, all the worrying and stress when it comes to a lot of things, it's like, it's all in the past now, and it's like, I'm still fine, I'm here, I'm fine. And so just allowing myself not to worry as much, because things always turn out just fine, and so like allowing others to get to that point as well, I think is important. But just doing so that is, in all of it, is really just getting down to the point of like living your life out of love. I think that's just the basis of it all. That's why I use that message that love is the answer to everything.
Thank you. So we're gonna have a quick shift in our conversation. I do want to ask folks about the program, if that's okay with you guys. That's okay with everybody out here. I do want to have a conversation with, so I'm gonna start with you, Isaiah. What was your experience like within the gener8tor Sherman Phoenix program? And I do want you to tell me, if possible, because want to be better at this, of the things that we are doing, what was helpful and what wasn't so helpful.
Yeah, I think overall, I kind of talked about this before. The best part of this program was honestly meeting the rest of the cohort. And I know we only have 5 of us up here, but you can see all their artwork in this room. It was truly amazing to try to get to know everybody and to see what what their artwork looks like, what their process is like, what their story is, because that's what draws me to my practice, is the story behind who I'm photographing, or whatever that may be. I want to know about these people. Obviously, getting $10,000 is life-changing. So as that was great. But not only that, it's easy for me as a photographer and videographer to fill up my Amazon or B&H cart with things that I really actually want to get, like lights and new cameras and stuff and a new computer, which I actually did. Yeah, it's amazing, and that stuff changes. I'm not trying to sound pretentious. I'm sorry. It was really life-changing for my business, because I used my new computer, my new lens, my new lights, and my new camera on several projects this summer, and I know it's not about the tool, it's about the artist. However, if that artist knows how to use that tool, it's gonna look even more amazing than it did before. So that investment, and it's not just creative projects that I'm doing as well, it's client work. So, some things that make money for myself on the outside of doing my artist practice, which is just how it is sometimes for many artists. So it benefited me that way. I'm trying to think of something that could have been, we did like a blind date sort of meeting with like mentors, right? Which was super cool. I was really excited for it. I think the day of, I wish we had more time to spend with some of these mentors. It was like maybe 10, 15 minutes each. And I was just like, oh dang, I really want their feedback as to who I don't know if y'all feel about this as well. I just really want their feedback about what they think about my stuff, because you know, I may hear that from Darius, I may hear that from my partner. My mom might be like, oh, that's cool. Okay, and then just keep it moving after that. But yeah, I just wanted to spend a little bit more time with them. Yeah, otherwise, keep on picking more great people like these guys up here.
Thank you. And what Isaiah is referring to, we did like a mentor swarm, where we had about basically 15 individuals come in. It was via Zoom, and it was, like he said, speed dating style. So they had 15 minutes to talk about their work and to have a conversation with those mentors. And the goal of it, yes, probably could have picked more time. I would definitely say that, because folks do like to talk. But the goal of it was to hopefully, after you are able to have a conversation with them, reach out to them and do the work on your own to have that conversation with them, to be able to like, hey, I really enjoyed this really brief conversation. Can we please speak again to talk more? And we probably could have spent a little bit more time. 15 minutes is not enough time. So going forward for the next program, we'll do 16 minutes. So we'll do more than 15 minutes. We'll do to give the artists a better shot. But I really appreciate that, just because I want this program to be the best program that it can be. I don't know everything. Don't think I do know everything, but I think the feedback is really good. And I want you guys just to be able to hear these things, because it's important. You know, don't want to, it's not the Willy Wonka ticket and it fixes everything. No, it's, you know, we're trying to be the best program that we can be inside and out. So even the vulnerability of having this conversation about the things that we could have did better on goes a lot further. So thank you, Isaiah, appreciate that. So Hannah, same question for you.
Yes.
So what was something within the program that was helpful, or you know, something that you really liked, and what was something within the program that wasn't so helpful, or in Isaiah's point, that he didn't really care for?
I think there were a couple of things that I really liked about the program, but one that comes to mind right now was that therapy session that we did. I think that was something, because we really talked about what it means to be an artist, but also things outside of art. Like, I don't know, we talked about like facing artist clock and how your personal life might affect your art practice or vice versa. And it was just really insightful and helpful hearing other people's experiences. I personally did not say much because I'm not really a public speaker, but I think just being there, being that environment, it really benefited me. Another thing is, I really enjoyed how at the beginning of the program, we all had to fill out these forms of like answering a couple questions, and one of the questions was, are there any mentors that you want or you think you might want, and you have to list their names. And what was great is that I listed one person. She's a curator in Chicago, and I didn't really know how that would turn out, but Darius and Maureen were able to help me connect with her, and that was really important for me, because she's a Filipino curator out there. Representation does matter, and I'm still in contact with her, and I got to hang out with her in Chicago outside, like after the program ended. So just building those connections that last beyond the month-long program of what it was, and that mentor swarm. It was very brief, but there were some people, some of the mentors who just gave quick advice for me, especially as a student. For one, feeling very blessed of being chosen for this is like a whole thing that I wasn't expecting, especially being a student. But one of the mentors was telling me, like, don't feel pressure to make good art, especially like doing things like this. I should not feel that pressure to produce just because to keep up with the art world. I could take breaks, and that's kind of what I did over the summer. Is like, I feel like I sound like I'm being a bad artist by saying I was trying not to do art over the summer. I was doing other things, like learning other things. I was taking Filipino martial arts and joined a book club. But I think all of those things, while you're taking a break, they do end up helping your practice in the end, because you do learn more about yourself in the long run. One thing I did not particularly enjoy. Well, I shouldn't say it like that. I feel like I feel like we should
Just lay it on thick. Just go ahead.
I feel like we should have hung out more in person, like just as a group outside of the program. Like, I really
I didn't
enjoyed
get no text. What?
I
just
no, like just getting to hang out outside of like our mentor events or learning events. Just getting to know these people more because they're pretty great. But I think the time that we did spend, I did learn a lot, and I did meet a lot of great people and great artists, and who, like, in the end, I feel like they became my mentor, even though they were a part of the cohort. But I learned a lot from everybody, so that's why I put it like that.
Well, thanks, Hannah. And what Hannah was talking about the therapist portion of the program. So I was able to bring in a clinical therapist that was able to talk to each person within a cohort. We did it in a group setting. So the therapist was able to have conversations with everyone, and wanted to do that just so everybody can feel like they're not alone with the issues that you're going through. Because sometimes, as an artist, you can feel isolated. And I'm glad that Hannah really appreciated that portion of it, because being vulnerable is not easy. And being able to have a space with folks that you are connecting with on a very personal level and having those conversations, I think was really good. I do wish I would have put that earlier in the program, just because it opened up so many doors of connecting and conversations and everything else. So thank you for that, Hannah. Jovanny, same questions, lay it on thick.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, I think, completing my undergrad at like an art program, one of the main things you learn is how to produce work, but you don't learn what happens afterwards. Throughout my 4 years, I met some great artists, great photographers, and then they leave undergrad and they hit this plateau, and 2 years later, they're not posting any new work, or they're not producing anything new. And I think that's kind of like one of the biggest issues when you pursue an art degree. And I think that's why kind of like programs outside of that, such as gener8tor, and learning how to really promote yourself or promote your work is essential, especially to a lot of artists and young artists around here in Milwaukee, especially if you want to see this growth. Kind of one of the early things I learned from a mentor, Corey Fells. He told me, he was like, if you want to pursue a career in this, it's 80% hustle, 20% work. You can have the best photo possible, but if you don't know how to promote it, if you don't know how to publish it, if you don't know how to sell it, then what's the point? You're just going to have images lined up against your basement with nothing to do with them. Like I mentioned, learning these things are essential for that growth, not only for an individual as an artist, but as the art community continues to grow, is seeing how we can continue to push those ideas further and, seek these opportunities. In regards with something that I wish was different within the gener8tor program was that, there's more opportunities outside of showcasing your work in galleries. Yes, galleries are essential to artists, if this is your career, but the way I see it is a lot of these sort of situations are just stepping stones. It's more important also to learn about the different avenues of where you can take your artwork, such as partnering up with nonprofits or community organizations. If you want, learn how to write a project proposal, learn how to, write a budget, pitch it to a community organization, and they're like, all right, let's do it. And then, they're the ones who have access to promote your work even bigger, or give you the opportunity to showcase it at a bigger scale. And I think that's one of the things that kind of generator art kind of fell short on. And I wish, a lot of more artists were able to learn that, there's more ways to show your work outside of galleries.
And that's actually something I remember, I think on the exit survey, I think that's something that you put in there. And that's something that for this next program that I did add to this next program is just the options, not just the one direction, it is options. So thank you for that. Anwar, same question.
I'd have to agree with Isaiah on the thought that it was meeting all of these artists. That was one of the best parts of being in the Generator cohort. I've been in art school for 7 of the last 11 years of my life, right? So I'm like used to being surrounded by artist community and focused on art as well, right? I mean, I have a studio. There's a lot of artists there. It's also quite a social space, and so sometimes I socialize more than I'm like in my studio making, perhaps. But our time together was art focused, and I do, when I do miss that, or I did miss that, having been, being a recent graduate, there was such a wide diversity of practices within our cohort. And so I learned a lot. There were some people who, you said you've had an LLC for 4 years, going on your 5th year. Someone like Lalise, is like doing it super big, right, with her ceramics and whatnot. So there's so many of us in different stages of our careers and have like approached careers from different angles and different experiences. So I found that really educational as well. And honestly, like what you said, Jovanny, about hustle, it's just like, there's so much hustle in this cohort, right? I mean, it's just really inspiring. Every time I see you, Nemo, I like leave feeling just like, oh, I feel like I just had like a major pep talk, right? I'm gonna start calling you Coach Nemo, if that's all right. But seriously, this is just like a really positive group of individuals. I love the field trips that we did take and hanging out with people. I'm glad I rode the train with Darius, to Chicago. When we went, we sat and we talked the entire time. And so it's that time together that I thought was, really great. And again, being inspired by all of you. But then, so because our practices are so diverse, then a lot of the workshops that were offered were quite diverse. We had like budgeting for different things, and I thought, oh gosh, I'm like really struggling with the names right now, but just having access to, it was like, just having access in those workshops to ask questions, specific questions of a person after they just gave like a really powerful or in-depth presentation. I appreciated that. I would say that, I'm interested in the nonprofit world, and perhaps that was one of the, maybe there's an opportunity in the future to talk more about nonprofits, whether it's starting one or maybe something more so specific about like grant writing to the nonprofit or to the foundation world. I can see that being a benefit to some people.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nemo. Oh, not Nemo. I'm looking at Nemo. Thanks, Anwar. So Nemo, same questions for you, sir.
All right. So, in general, I enjoyed every aspect of the program. I'll say one of the more beneficial things that had an immediate impact on me was the workshop where one of the people you had come on Zoom and talk about how to do your budget for a proposal. And I thought that was very helpful, which ended up, I used a lot of those tips in the proposal that I ended up submitting and getting. So I think that was very, very timely for the things that I had going on. But yeah, overall, I mean, like the field trip, being able to connect with a lot of the curators and directors at a lot of these institutions, I thought was just phenomenal. Broadening our network of people and being exposed to other artists as well. I just think the platform and the light that you all given us on your socials and things like that is always helpful and beneficial. Yeah, overall, it was great. I mean, obviously, to you all's point, Anwar, I mean, it really is us, the artists and you and Marine and, the whole Generator team as well. It's great to connect with you all. I mean, because we were on this journey together, and I think we got a chance to form some bonds and connections with each other that we wouldn't have had the chance to otherwise outside of Generator. So just grateful to be a part of this diverse group of people here. Yeah, it was so I'll say, like, again, the thing that I really took away from most are the people who end up coming and sharing their knowledge in terms of just like, how to write a proper artist statement, how to, do these, how to write a proper proposal, how to, think about your work as an artist, how to expand and grow. And so I thought those were really helpful. I would say also that the field trip too, the field trip to Expo Chicago, I thought was excellent. Because for me, myself too, like, for me, I desire to do everything at its highest level possible. And so like, even when it comes to the art world, it's like, okay, well, I'm in it now, so where's the top of this thing at, So that's where my mind is. And so Expo Chicago was like a step closer in the direction I desired to take my art. So you have like galleries from around the world, top tier galleries from around the world, and you get an exposure, you get a chance to connect with some of the curators and directors from some of the most prominent institutions in the world. And so I thought that was really great. And I'll just say in general too, just moving forward, one thing that I'll probably add as a sort of a critique is perhaps more, I don't know too, I mean, we work with where we are now and how things are for the landscape of the art in the city and the state. But I think too, if there's any way to pull in some sort of like, national or, some people outside of the state to be able to start to grow our network outside of the state to be something I think would be beneficial for sure.
Thanks, Nemo. And I remember having a conversation with you about that, and that's why for this program I got residencies from all throughout the United States and outside of the United States, or galleries that the next cohort can have conversation with. Sorry, Hannah. So just thank you. Thanks for sharing that. So just with the next one, we're just gonna wrap this up real quick, because I know we're running on time. So for each artist here, we can just do a brief, short little conversation. For everybody inside here or anybody who's listening, what can Milwaukee do to support artists like yourself? Start with you, Nemo. We'll go back down this way.
Yeah, sure. I would say Generator is a great example of what can be done for it's a venture capital firm who just decided to have an art program. But we have a plethora of those type of businesses out here that can show support. But I think Generator is sort of like it's a good example of what can be done if you're even just a business, that can show support for the arts. Because a lot of times the arts are overlooked, but I think what's also overlooked is that art is everything. Everything around us is art. The design of every single thing. There's not anything that you can't lay your eyes on that is not artistic in some format. And so to overlook the art, to not pay attention to the art, especially the creative arts, which allows things to just, one, art makes a place beautiful, right? But it's also, it allows you to think more critically as well. And so just to overlook the importance of the visual arts or the fine arts world in general is just something that is in ways a shame, and I feel like, if there are more institutions and programs like Generator that will continue to just help push how important art really is. And so again, like Generator is a great example. I know there's a lot of other art institutions that are stepping forward and putting forth proper effort to highlight the arts in Milwaukee. And I'm so happy that that's happening, because this place is just swimming in talent. It's insane, and so we just need more our people, those who have the capacity to do so, to step up to the plate and allow, artists to have more opportunities than others.
I was going to suggest building a high-speed train that connects Milwaukee to Chicago and Minneapolis.
Yeah, I think so.
and Hawaii. I don't know. It's I agree that we have so much talent here, and I do think that opportunities for Milwaukee-based artists and Wisconsin-based artists to show their work out of state and out of I think that type of presence might actually increase people's interest in national and international interest in Milwaukee art. I'm sure there's we've got the talent pool, and I don't know. There was an artist who had recently got back from Dubai, I think, and she was like, "Man, they are spending so much money on art there," and it's not that they aren't like, I've never been, so I guess I can't say for sure, but it's like, well, then maybe we should go where the money is, right? And get more Wisconsin and Milwaukee artists showing work in places that are looking for and can afford to pay artists to to do the damn thing.
Thank you. Jovanny? Yeah, I think if art in Milwaukee wants to grow, one of the key cornerstones is the relationship with the community. If it's different neighborhoods around Milwaukee, because overall, if you look at it, these galleries or art organizations, need to support the community, and thus the community supports them. And I feel like we're starting to see a lot of that within, certain galleries around the city of Milwaukee, where they're starting to realize, if we isolate 60-70% of the population here from entering our doors, then, we can make this sustainable. And, a lot of the art organizations that are popping up here in Milwaukee, especially within, underrepresented neighborhoods, they're starting to realize, okay, if we want to grow, we must do this together. How can we make sure that we're not this separate entity that exists, but we're actually part of the family of the community, and, just help support local artists, or really pay attention to some of the younger artists who are coming up, or even providing those resources starting at a younger age, if it's people in elementary school or high school students, and seeing okay, if you want to pursue a career in art, is it sustainable here in Milwaukee, and if so, what are the resources available? Thank you. Hannah?
I would just kind of like to say, show up. Period. I think it's important that people show up to things. Otherwise, if we're showing art, what does it matter if no one comes? So I feel like if you it doesn't have to be some big gallery opening night to go to, but if oh, my friend is showing their art at this place, or there's a group of people who are doing this over there, just come. It's just meet people. It's keep community building, and it's hopefully free for the most part. Yeah, show up, please.
Thanks, Isaiah.
I think about when I first started about wanting to be a photographer seriously, and my dad literally questioned me. He was like, "How are you gonna make money doing that?" And I was like, "I'm gonna show you." But it wasn't until I started doing photography with Milwaukee Tool that he really, the rest of my family too, really started to understand how serious I was about wanting to be a photographer. And though I love working with them, it's a great opportunity, freelance job that I have. I don't want to do it every single day. I love doing other things too. So those words of encouragement, of love, go a long way in establishing that your artist at home, your friend artist, or whoever they may be in your life, has a ticket out, a pathway to be a successful artist, and it's just as small as saying yo, that is beautiful, that is a great job, keep doing what you're doing, and along with all of these other wonderful pieces of advice to show up for those artists as well.
Thank you. And I would just say, on my behalf, I think the best way, at least for within the city of Milwaukee, as Hannah said, it is support. And I think support can look like different things for other people. And investing time and energy into folks. I think sometimes we spend a lot of time on social media. It doesn't cost anyone just to reshare a friend or some good art that you can see. And I think that is the difference in other cities. And I think we just have to think outside of the box. I'm a big person. I can't rely on somebody else to support you. Sometimes you have to go out there and do it yourself, or create that doorway for yourself. If there's no door there, you may have to break down some doors to get there. And I think as Milwaukee artists and other art enthusiasts or people that just like art, I think it's just we need to carve out our own direction and not think someone else will do it for you. Because as soon as you think someone else will do it for you, it will never be done. So I think for me, that is the thing. I think folks like yourselves, the folks that did come, MARN, and everything else, Generator Art, Sherman Phoenix, and just the Generator Art program are the steps of getting to the right direction of, hey, if we can keep doing these things, this can lead us, not to be corny, to the promised land. But I think that is the best thing that we all can do for ourselves. Before I do end this, I want to be able just to ask anyone if you guys do have any questions for anybody up here. I want to give you the opportunity. So any questions?
I'm a puppeteer and puppet maker, and I need to talk to you. Us puppet people always know each other. I don't know.
I don't know you either. But now we do. And yeah, let's connect.
Okay. Outside of that, any other questions before I close it up? Go ahead.
Can you name a time where you felt stuck in your art career, and what happened / what did you do to get over that feeling?
Whoever got the answer, please.
Can you repeat the question just for the? Can you repeat the question just for the?
Oh.
Darius, if you can say that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
If one of you guys have any question, like what they asked was a time that you felt stuck within your practice or your career, and what got you out of that? I hope I'm saying it the right way.
Thank you.
Yeah, what got you out of that feeling?
Yeah. For me, my career is photojournalism, and photojournalism is so different from like a creative photo practice because it's so objective based. Like a lot of times I shoot sports or press conferences, and there's so much you can do with an image like that. And a lot, for me, I thought that was my only way to really make money with photography, and like the only way to sustainably support myself financially. And I got into this kind of rut of like thinking of my own skills as a photographer was like, all right, I just go in, get this image, and I'm out, nothing much more of it. And the way I've been able to navigate or kind of like see outside of that kind of view is that, I got hired on for a reason, and that reason being is because I see the world in a different way. They hired me because, my photographic eye is essential to tell a story in a different way, and it really pushed me to really think about my own job and my daily, work day. Like, okay, like how can I make something that like I'm actually proud of to be seen, in traditional media? Like how can I push myself to be a little bit more creative in a field that is so objective based, that's so sterile at times.
I'll say my advice for that is just simply keep creating and have faith that everything will work out. I think just so I feel like we all come to a point where we feel stuck in whatever area in life, but the only failure is to just give up, and so that's not, that's no good. So I would say just continue to create, be patient with the process, because these are, they're very cliche, but it's like this is what success is in any regard, no matter what it is. It's consistency and patience, and continuing to learn and grow in your craft as well, and having faith as well. I mean, it's like just believing that the vision that you have in your mind of yourself, of your success as an artist, is on its way. And the only way to keep working towards that is just to continue to create, continue to do your craft. So, yeah, just keep going. I know for me it was like my back was against for me, like I survive and I do things when the pressure's there, so sometimes it's like I I put myself in situations where I'm forced to take the next step, you know. And so it's just like, you know, that next step will look like whatever for yourself, but the whole point is that you just don't stop and let whatever pressure may be on you right now be a fuel to like, okay, I need to step it up, you know, and let that be the things that drive you. So.
All right, this will be the last.
This isn't necessarily career advice as much as it is like sort of artistic practice advice. Like if you're feeling stuck, I find that switching media temporarily is a way to like sort of reinvigorate your practice because you're trying something new, you're then learning again once you start picking up a new medium. And I would say, you know, low stakes repetitions, right? Sketchbooks. I love working in sketchbooks, and then I kind of stopped working in sketchbooks, and then all of like my art just kind of now feels like sketches sometimes, right? But it's just, you know, practice and have fun when you're doing it. If you're feeling like it isn't fun, then you need to like maybe take a break or find another way to just sort of stay fluidly creative. You know, make a zine, you know, photocopy like your favorite stuff that you have made, and then make a book out of it, right? And just like you can start to imagine like new ways of experiencing art for yourself, and new ways that other individuals might experience your art as well.
All right, Hannah, you can do the last one.
Okay, I'll just make this really quick. I want to say, like, don't be afraid to make bad art. Like, if you, like, don't put the pressure on yourself to make something, like, have some big idea or anything. Sometimes you just gotta get in there and mess with material. You don't even have to know where you're going, just, like, touch it. I learned this from Lalise, actually. They're a part of this cohort, and they talked about sometimes you just gotta touch the material, and you can build random things. You don't gotta know. It's your own therapy session of just moving the material. Also, like, listening music and closing your eyes and just like dancing around and just getting loose. So that's all I have to say.
And I will end it there. Just wanted to say thank you for everybody that came. It really means a lot just to show up in situations like this, to hear folks out, because this can inspire the next person or the person behind you or in front of you on the side of you. That it is possible in Wisconsin, it is possible in Milwaukee, and it is folks out there who actually care about your practice, your work, and everything. So please be on the lookout for more just from gener8tor Art and gener8tor Art Sherman Phoenix, because it will be a lot more programs like this, and it will be more talks just like this, so you can hear about the people that are around you. Because at the end of the day, these are people from our community. Everybody inside here is someone from our community who's an artist, who has their own story to tell. And we would just want to be able to keep expanding on these. So I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you guys for coming up here and sharing your story. I know it is not easy. Being vulnerable is not easy, but you guys did a really good job at it. And just thank you for being a part of this program, because this was the first program of the gener8tor Art Sherman Phoenix, and you guys knocked it out the park. And just thank you. Yeah.